I want to introduce Jason Lee, who is founder and CEO of Smartcone Technologies. He'll be coming onto the stage with me in a moment, and we'll share some of the innovations that his team is developing and implementing in communities in Canada, across North America, and around the world. Over to you, Jason.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the introduction, Justin. Very excited about the presentation today. So before we get started, I'm going to stop sharing my video so that we can play a little news clip and then I'll get into the presentation.
Well, Keen and Alicia, usually when there's a problem in an area, police have to go out and monitor it. However, this Smartcone technology picks up on data for both drivers and pedestrians, allowing them to keep an eye out without actually having to be there. This might look like a surveillance camera, but that's not its purpose. The cameras pointed towards St. Paul behind Pierce Middle School help collect data.
The number of vehicles that would go through an intersection, the speed of vehicles, how many pedestrians are going through an intersection.
So the cameras help collect the data. From there, the data feeds to a server. And from there, that data is then sent to the police department.
All those pieces of technology work together in one unit to give us all that data at one time, which is a cost savings for number one, a manpower savings.
Right now, Smartcone is set up at 2 locations. The second is at Nottingham and Kirchville. The Smartcone system can be moved to other intersections, helping reassure people seeing those traffic issues.
And so the feedback we're getting from our residents and customers is that there's been a great change in the pattern of traffic, the speeds, and they feel that the safety for the kids crossing has excelled increasingly.
Next Energy is a nonprofit technology company out of Detroit, helping facilitate between Smartcone and police. I'm told there is a long-term goal to help develop new ways of communicating issues at an intersection to drivers.
In the future, that signal will go to the actual control unit in the vehicle, and it will be seamless, like a machine-to-machine communication.
Now, these cameras can be used as a surveillance system, but at this time, that's not what police are using it for. It's just to monitor the traffic in the area, collect that data, and get a better understanding. Allie Hoxie, 7 Action News.
Thanks for playing that. That's some exciting stuff. Clearly, for a company like Smartcone, it's always great to get good news, but to being involved in a leading edge market and helping shape the future for vulnerable road users is really exciting. So, okay. So for those of you who are not familiar with Smartcone Technologies, we are an edge-based product. We started off our technology as what I call cloudless technology. It was designed in partnership with some of the military groups back in the late in 2009 timeframe for safety and surveillance in around the world of different applications. So we've been at this for over a decade now. And we founded Smartcone in 2015 and redirected that technology into cities and airports and things like that. And so when we had the opportunity to talk about this particular application in smart cities, it's a great opportunity for us as we've been involved in many aspects of autonomous and freight tracking and movement and safety and so on, including the video you just saw, which is we're very privileged to be part of, and operating multiple shuttle bus projects around North America, and then also working with logistics. So I'm going to cover in this presentation who Smartcone is from a technology perspective, and then some of the applications that we've been working with, and then we can get into the questions. So just to share where we are with, sorry, there you go, the technology itself. So Smartcone is a technology ecosystem, we call it. And we support a variety of applications that are just all across the board. And if some of you have been following us on LinkedIn, you'll see that we even have a couple of space programs now, which is pretty exciting. And so then people ask us, well, what is Smartcone? Well, Smartcone is a technology ecosystem, and you can see from the pucks, and as you know, being a Canadian, I guess pucks fits. You can see from these modules that the capabilities for providing solutions are endless. And then every time we add a new modular capability, like you see in these little pucks, then you can stack them together to really solve a lot of problems. And when you look at, well, at least when we look at the vulnerable road user autonomous operations, whether it be for freight or manufacturing or vehicles or whatever the case is, these are complex problems that offer a lot of challenges. And and so using a platform that can handle the ability to use LiDAR, radar, cameras, AI, RFID, ultra wideband, all these things in unison across a distributed network like in a city, and that's the kind of toolkit we believe that is required to do a job like that, at least in part. And then cloud solutions, connectivity, and software is that's the partnership that we work with often with some of these solutions. So it's a collaborative model, but it certainly does support a lot of these use cases in parallel at the same time, which again is required. So you can see on the bottom left-hand corner the stack of the Smartcone, which actually is a tube, and I get the irony of that. It used to be Smartcone because of the traffic cones, and we still do that often as a skin. And then the term Smartcone just stuck because smart tube just doesn't sound as appealing technologically as a Smartcone. Anyway, so lots of different things happening there, and so let's get into a few of the projects that we deployed, starting with the Grosse Pointe Park solution. So in this particular case, we have multiple cameras on a utility pole with AI modules and radar in the system. And what we're doing here is we're monitoring the speed of the traffic as it goes back and forth, and then we're using AI in the cameras to count and characterize the vehicle size and type that's going through that, and we're fusing all that information together. And it deploys very quickly. It's a low-cost deployment powered by the utility pole, and we can put these all over the place. We also have Wi-Fi access points available in them for accessibility or providing bandwidth to rural areas and so on and so forth at the same time. And again, the reason we did that way is because real estate is really a commodity, it's a finite resource on hydro poles, utility poles, and so on and so forth. And so by keeping it as one single footprint that gives you that platform, really is a good business case for cities to do things like detecting pedestrians, activating car crosswalks, collecting information on cars, CO2 level monitoring, all of the applications that are supporting what smart cities are doing. And moving logistics around as well is key. So tracking RFID tags and ultra wideband tags and so on and so forth, license plate recognition, all the things that are happening right now in the world, we support those things. And that makes it a good business case and a tool for rolling out an infrastructure in smart cities. So there's a couple of things happening here. One, we're showing just, again, some of the applications we support, but you can see how we've evolved the technology as well, starting with the top left picture, which is the Grosse Pointe picture that you saw. And then the one beside it is our new iteration of the Smartcone, which is a little cleaner looking, and it's an evolution. But the top of it is actually an environmental monitoring device. So that does things like solar loading, so that you can do things like see how hot parks are or streets are, so that the vulnerable road users we're not just protecting them from vehicles moving around, but at the same time looking at the sun exposure and heat exposure for the life sciences side of Smartcone. And so that's also an exciting in that it's going beyond the transportation into the user experience as people in parks and things like that, which really expands to a whole new dimension. And then you've got your standard AI categorization and classification tools on the bottom left, which we can do vehicle type, size, color, people, dogs, whatever it is that we need to do from understanding how these people and objects look to vehicles and cars. And obviously the ultimate goal there is to take all this information and send it out to all the vehicles so that they can start making decisions about the city and the route way in advance. And that's the part of having the intelligent infrastructure, is that the cars that are flying through it, or the forklifts or whatever it is, are all getting information way ahead of where they're going to be, so they can make better decisions quickly. And our vision of what that can really turn into is your standard cities and how they're built now, based on the way traffic moves around now. We see that that's going to completely change in the future. As transportation becomes automated, roads will look differently, and sidewalks will probably get larger, and there's a whole bunch of things that will change there. In order to really understand what that looks like, we have to gather data and classify it and categorize it. And our role in the world is to work with many companies to have a technology platform that they can all use, so that we can be efficient about deploying these things. And this is just a fun picture of some of the projects that we worked on. It's also highlighting what we call the smart torch. And for some of you that know Auto Guardian by Smartcone, which is a subsidiary of Smartcom, and Auto Guardian is our shuttle bus operation and smart city infrastructure for connected and safe cities. And you can see that there's what we call a smart torch, which is the flashing beacon. And that's an intelligent device. It communicates with the onboard module of the vehicle. It has audio in it to be able to help give instructions to the vulnerable road user, or people who visually impaired. We can give audio instructions and so on and so forth. But it also cues the flashing lights, so that in mixed traffic scenarios where you have autonomous vehicles and traditional vehicles, that the driver of a traditional vehicle can see that there's an autonomous vehicle there, or vulnerable road users. So we're just drawing their attention with lights and coordinating safety. This is a picture of our Town of Whitby project. And again, it was an AVEN program that we're currently working on deploying now. And the route is the purple line at the bottom of that the picture there. And this is a fairly long track through the town of Whitby, where we've deployed multiple smart cones, and we're using, in partnership with Nokia and their private LTE system, for monitoring, constant monitoring of the vehicle and the equipment throughout the route. And there's multiple bus stops. So in this case, it's a mixed traffic situation where we have users going from a GO station all the way through the tourism park of the Whitby and then back around. It's a really great application. And our goal here was not just to demonstrate the mixed traffic operations, but was actually the business model on how to make money from this and how to have it be sustainable after the demonstration, which is really the key, right? So providing demonstrations is fantastic. It shows the viability and pushes technology forward, which is super important. But it's also important to understand how to make a business of it and how to help push it forward so it becomes a reality. And that's really the part that we're super interested in. We now have 4 shuttle bus programs that we're operating, not just from the safety side, but also like from the infrastructure side, for safety, but also for the full operations. So we're now working with multiple shuttle bus companies where we take the full engineer on board, and the maintenance and the ticketing and the whole end-to-end gamut. And we feel there's a great future in that. So, and now we're getting to we showed the vulnerable road user side with the Grosse Pointe Park solution. We've talked about the shuttle bus operations in the Whitby program, and we have 4 in total there. And then the final piece to our story of autonomous freight tracking is what we've done with this forklift. So with the world's freight company. We, for the last couple of years, we've been working with them, proving out our Smartcone mounted on a forklift, which is what you see here, that the tube there. And I had to black out yellow out the company's name. They like to keep that private. But it's for 18,000 forklifts we're working with, and we've mounted a Smartcone onto the equipment. So you can see the installation was very quick, just mounted to the side of the vehicle and attached to power. And then on the top there, you see a little anchor, which is right, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but it's here at the top. So we put an array of anchors in the ceiling of factories, and we can also do this outside. And so what happens is, as the forklift moves around, there are little RFID tags in each of the boxes, and we mark the XY coordinate position of the box. We move it from one place to the other, and it's completely automated their inventory. Already finding packages and looking at efficiencies has just been incredible for them. So it's a great application. So mixing this with an autonomous vehicle is our next step, which we're working on now, and that's the beginning of showing this autonomous freight movement, and using the vulnerable road user technology to provide safety for all the pedestrians is also really exciting, because one of the things that we all have to be aware of, and I've heard it in the presentations, which were great, by the way, the other presentations were excellent, is that providing that in mixed traffic is really the key. When you want to find efficiencies and continue operations and having, life move on at a positive rate, then you need to be able to coordinate safety and operations. And when your vehicle stops because there's a person there and so on and so forth, that offers a lot of delays. And it's safety first, so we don't want to argue with that. But we've got to be able to get to the point where we can operate these things at real speed and keep safety with everybody integrated. And that takes a lot of coordination and monitoring and data and sensors and all this stuff. And so that's the super exciting for us, because that's the world we live in, is back to how we started Smartcone and the architecture over a decade ago, was how do you put first responders in a situation where there's a lot of stuff happening at once and decisions have to be made quickly, and safety is key. And that's what we feel, that we've created a platform to do that. We've created multiple solutions out there that are big installations, and we've learned about a lot of different things in doing that. We've put, was it 4 billion minutes of edge-based video analytics through our technology in the last over the last decade of actually deployed technology, and we've learned a lot of lessons there. And the freight tracking piece is a real world application of moving autonomy to the next level. And so we're super excited about that. And that's kind of Smartcone and the activities that we're involved in right now. And so with that, I'd like to open it up to some questions and discussion.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Great to hear from you again today. And there's been a lot of technologies that you've been with institutions like Ontario Tech and through the AVEN community. I wondered if you could share anything about sort of some of the key things that these partnerships with us have sort of basically helped you bring the technologies to market.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I should have put a slide in there for that. So I'm sorry that I didn't actually. That you bring that question up, but I've got to tell you that Canada is played a huge role in our company, and we're very patriotic. And the schools and the universities, academia has been huge. UOIT, CITM, Invest Ottawa, University of Ottawa has been great. Especially our relationship with Ontario Tech University has been phenomenal, right from the time that's how we got into AVEN. We have our sensors deployed at the GM Centers of Excellence, which is next level stuff for us. The resources coming out of the schools these days are right on mark for us to be able to use them commercially to help development solutions and networking opportunities and introductions to companies. It's led to our success. It's absolutely 100% without involvement of organizations like Ontario Tech U, and we wouldn't have met IBM or Nokia or any of these other parties that are just really leading to the success of the company. So 100%, I would say that the involvement of academia has been huge.
Great. Thanks. There are some questions here popping up, and maybe I can read them out to you. And this is actually the first question I want to add a sort of a twist to it. And the first question is, what opportunities could you see for your technology to help educate the general public and feel safe with AVs, sidewalk drones included? And I want to add the twist I want to add to that is how do you see the approaches you take to educate differ based on the jurisdictions that you are exporting your technology to? So you can imagine that if you're deploying technology in Toronto, it might be a little bit different than Detroit, it might be different than in Europe and things of this nature, just because of cultural differences.
The whole world revolves around human factors, and in technology, we can often forget that. Like we get so excited about what a thing does, and we forget about who's using it. And Smartcone, we really try to remember that. I have a background in training and herd dynamics and things like that. So communicating to masses and providing comfort level and familiarity to technology is a big thing. So that when you go into a city or a group of people, that you can instantly build rapport and safety and confidence with the cities. And that's a really big thing. When you put something foreign in somewhere, people are very challenged by it, and they have a hard time understanding how it fits the paradigm. So, Smartcone itself, like using a cone, is one of those things where people are familiar with cones. It's a familiar setting that they know what to do with, which is one of the beauties of having a cone. And then providing natural voices and information that's not confrontational to people is also key to that, which is a messaging piece, the audio piece. But then making it fun too. So we have the ability to put on our cones really great digital signs, and as holograms come into play, just showing and putting signage and welcoming and setting that stage is the key, we believe, for adopting that. But also, one of the important things is communicating to the masses, not just to individuals. So many times when we do signaling solutions out there in the world, we forget that we're talking to a group of people, not one person. And so that deployment of the physical piece to make it look welcoming, and then also the audio piece is great. And then communicating with the drones. What we really want to do from my perspective is we want to give the drones a bit of a personality. So when you're walking down the street and you have sidewalk drones, that there's a level of respect and collaboration between the people walking and the drone, and so it's not adversarial. And that's the problem, right? Because you can say excuse me to a human, but you can't say excuse me to a drone. And so that breaking those barriers down, just in kind of what I've said in a few minutes, wrapping up there, breaking the barriers down so that people feel the respect and the drones feel the respect of that collaboration on the sidewalk is the key. We can do that through infrastructure, lighting and sounds and so on and so forth to help build that rapport.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And the next question is it possible for a Smartcone to communicate with a mobile device? And I guess a second component of it, what do you have to think about from a cybersecurity standpoint when those communications do happen?
So we already do communicate to mobile phones. So that's already part of our solution. And as far as the cybersecurity piece goes, we employ and use all the cybersecurity solutions that are out there today. But I think the one thing that's really important to know is that Smartcone has a data repository on the device as well that's locked into the sensor. So what that means from a cybersecurity perspective is that it's not just available for anybody to get. You have to have the credentials, and you have to use your API and so on, and to secure the data correctly, so it's not just available for anybody to get to. So that's locked down. And then the other part is the privacy thing. That's always a big question when you're dealing with smart city data and public data. And our view on that is that, Smartcone itself, even though you have all these sensors, is one sensor in itself. And so when the data is on the Smartcone, it stays on the Smartcone, and there's really no use for it, meaning that people can be rest assured that the data is locked into the sensor and no one's looking at it. And when they do want to look at it, then it's up to the subscriber of the data to justify and explain what it is that they're doing with it. And that's a transparent thing for people, so that there's a peace of mind that if you're walking down the road and there's a camera, it doesn't mean that someone's looking at the camera. It actually means that it's just providing information, that there's a purpose for it, that some other company may be using. And that's a new concept, because as you know, typically when sensors get deployed in a city, that they stream data just to a cloud. And then who knows where it's going? And that's the big question. In this case, that's not what happens. What happens is all the data is stored in the infrastructure, staying right there. Nobody's doing anything with it until someone uses an app, but they have to disclose to the public what the app is used for. So the data stays in the sensor, so they can be rest assured that it's being protected by our Smartcone for sure.
Great, thanks. And another question that came up is Jason, could you share which airports you're working with, or maybe generally more broadly some of the other companies or jurisdictions you're working with?
So I won't say the exact airports, but we're all over Nevada, we're all over Florida, we're all over different spots in California, some in Boston, places like that. Yep. And we've been deployed there for 6 years in these places. So it's about 1,500 cameras that we have deployed and asset tracking.
Yeah. And the next question is near and dear to my heart, because I do work at Ontario Tech at the Automotive Center of Excellence. And the question is, how does rain, snow, lighting condition interfere with the performance of the devices? I certainly know how you test them. Devices easy to move around, and what kind of maintenance costs are involved with these equipment?
Well, there's a lot of answers there, because there's a lot of things being said. But for sure, the maintenance part of it is we've had some of our equipment deployed for over 6 years, and they've done nothing to it. So it really depends on what you're using it for, and the environment it's in, and so on and so forth. So, and then it's all over the air updates and stuff like that, which you typically get from technology. So I'd say the maintenance of it is fairly low, unless you're in a very, rugged environment, throwing it around and stuff. Then but it's really robust. From the rain, snow, and so on and so forth, those are largely sensor-related questions and communications-related questions. So there's an element of engineering that has to go into whatever sensor array and application you're going with. And so Smartcone helps with that engineering, and we use the right sensor for the right application. So if you're talking about LiDAR, for example, and I think that's probably one of the big things, we have over a decade of experience in laser-based solutions in atmospheric conditions. So, you can't change physics. So physics is what it is. You can try your best to do, all sorts of modulations and other things to defeat that. But for us, we see in environmental conditions using multiple technologies, for example, ultrasonic, acoustic, and LiDAR, things like that, to defeat all weather conditions that get deployed. And then a fusion system really brings that into making sure that you have that efficiencies throughout the whole operation. And that's our view on it, is that you can't defeat physics, but you can use multiple dimensions of technology to ensure that you have a successful application. We have patents in fiber, patents in optical, and also ultrasonic applications for that exact solution.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, Jason, we're basically out of time, and I want to take a moment to thank you and for your talk and all the work you're doing with the Avon teams in Durham and Ottawa and Hamilton and Windsor. So thanks once again. And yes, so I appreciate that discussion. We look forward to hearing more about all the great things Smartcone continues to do in the future.